voice of FinTech.
Hello and welcome to Voice of FinTech Africa Series. I'm Rudy Fala, the founder of Voice of FinTech podcast. In this series, you will hear inspirational stories of entrepreneurs, investors, incumbents, and ecosystem hub leaders from Africa. And this episode is hosted by Patrick.
In this edition of our Africa series, we explore the more contemporary world of blockchain technology and how it's being used to bring inclusion and prosperity for all stakeholders in Africa and globally. Our guest, Umar Sebyala, brings his background in shaping the customer experience to where he sits as the ecosystem lead for Uganda at the Celo Foundation. He's here to tell us more. How's it going, Umar? How have you been?
Hi, Patrick. It's all good. Been fine. How you been?
It's all right. It's very chilly in Nairobi, about 12 degrees. And I have my coffee here, getting warmed up for our discussion. For starters, could you tell us, or tell our audience rather, introduce us to the Celo project, tell us more about yourself and how you ended up joining this ambitious global initiative?
Thanks for having me, Patrick. Yes, as you introduced me, my name is Umar Sebyala, and I work as the ecosystem lead for Uganda at cLabs, working on a blockchain platform called Celo. I've been in the role for around a year and a half right now, because I joined it in around May of 2020. So yeah, it's been a while. Taking it from the blockchain side, it's been a while. And prior to getting into the Celo space, I was working at Uganda Telecom in the client relationship management section, which is where I built my interest in from the telecommunications side. Actually, Uganda Telecom gave me the foundation that I needed to understand the modern tech industry and build the curiosity that I have for blockchain technology and anything to do with the fourth industrial revolution. So as an ecosystem lead, my role at cLabs can be summarized in three broad aspects. The first one is strategy. With this, I handle anything to do with the regulatory aspects within a target market, like say Uganda. So I have to have my ear on the ground. Then also go to market. How do we bring this technology to the market? That's the strategy bit of my role. Then secondly, ecosystem. Under the ecosystem part, we have aspects to do with partnerships and collaboration, trying to build these mutually beneficial interlinkages within the market. And the third part would be community. With this, we have meetups, events, and conferences, trying to grow awareness of the Celo platform. And when you wrap these three aspects together, you have what I do as an ecosystem lead. So in a nutshell, that's about me in my role. Then to talk about the Celo platform, Celo is a mobile-first blockchain platform that makes it easy for anybody with a mobile phone to access financial tools and services. Celo as a word is taken out of the Esperanto language, which is an auxiliary language, and it means purpose. So everything that we do within Celo is purposeful, and you'll find that as the conversation progresses, I'll try to show you how it's all interlinked. So the Celo community can be looked at broadly as being bound by two core values. And these two core values are unique purpose and connectedness. When it comes to unique purpose, we are looking at the fact that each individual is unique in their own right. That's why they're individuals. And they have to grow along their own unique path. And when it comes to the second value, it's connectedness, and connectedness in the sense that we're primarily social beings, and we feel like the whole, or say the community as a whole, would be more wholesome, more healthy if everybody felt these mutually beneficial linkages coming in together. So you have the individual at the core, and you have these interlinkages with other individuals, which kind of make the collective whole. And it's against this background that you see that we're trying to build something that could work for a global audience. So the Celo platform is also on a mission to build a financial system that creates the conditions for prosperity for everyone. And everyone means everyone. We're trying to have a global impact, trying to build something that works for the world, and trying to make the world a better place. Now, these two values that I mentioned, unique purpose and connectedness, are underpinned by 4 core community tenets. The very first is building for everyone, in that everything that is done within the Celo community is for everyone. There's nothing that is trying to exclude anybody from getting to where they need to be in their purpose of or in their path to growth. So it's an inclusive platform. Then the second is striving for beauty. Everything that is done, every application that is built, every initiative that comes to fruition is built with the presence of mind that we're trying to build something that is beautiful. And as you can see from the various applications that are already live, there is that beautiful artistic touch to everything that comes out of the Celo space. Then the third aspect is trying to innovate on money. So we know that, broadly speaking, money is simply a belief system, and it's something that should actually work for a community. So trying to have these experiments and innovations, trying to see that money gets better and works for more people. Then the fourth aspect is embodying humility. So much as we're trying to change the world and trying to build something that is going to take us to the next level, we try to do it all being humble and being cognizant that we're doing it for the greater good and not for our personal benefit as people within the Celo ecosystem. So you find that these are the 4 core community tenants that actually do live within the Celo community.
Cool.
Yeah,
that's really interesting, and I know there's more, but just to bring it closer to home, practically speaking, how is the Celo Foundation delivering on its mission to democratize finance in Africa? For example, I know that the Celo platform supporting payments in West Africa already, and there's something new you guys are doing with Dunia Pay. Would you speak more to that, just to elaborate on what you've already?
So when it comes to the Celo Foundation, we are talking about, in essence, it's a non-profit foundation that is promoting the use of open source cryptographic networks to globally support prosperity, financial inclusion, and also environmental health. And this can be done through research, education, and outreach. So the foundation is an overall body that kind of has this vested interest to see that the Celo network kind of gets to the next level and is designed in a way that actually works for everybody. So to physically or to actually do this, the Celo Foundation has an alliance for prosperity. And this alliance is made up of members or member entities of the Celo Foundation. And these entities energize and act upon the foundations. This is actually where the rubber meets the road, that the foundation does act within these various entities. And you mentioned Dunia Pay. Dunia Pay is actually a member of the Celo Alliance for Prosperity, and they are working on some very interesting finance on Celo within the West African market, specifically Burkina Faso, Mali, Senegal, and Cote d'Ivoire. So the foundation has really been the backbone in the growth of the Celo ecosystem this far, and leveraging the members of the Alliance for Prosperity, it's been able to do various entities, to do various initiatives with various entities. So when it comes to practical examples of what they have done, you'll find that there is a grants program that is run by the Celo Foundation, and this particular program has supported over 90 projects in 54 countries to date. And has dispersed a value of around $4.9 million in funding across the last 3 waves. So we had wave 1, we had wave 2, and we had wave 3. Currently going through wave 4, which is yet to be announced, but it's like the foundation has been opening up the cohorts or the calls for proposals to make them broader and have more impact in what they're doing. So looking at these last 3 waves of funding, I'm just going to pick on just a few to show you some of the impact that has happened. For the case of, I'll start off from Uganda. Uganda, within the last wave, we had two grantees, two recipients of this funding. Then the first one is Kanzu Code, which is a fintech that is working on financial inclusion. And they work with microfinance institutions and village circles. So they are building a mobile wallet that can enable these institutions save in Celo dollars. Celo is the native asset of the Celo platform, but on top of this, there are a host of stable value assets like the Celo dollar, which is pegged 1-to-1 to the United States dollar. So they are trying to bring the Celo dollar to their platform and enable these microfinance institutions provide access to a dollar-pegged stable asset within their wallet. And this is going to be huge for MFIs within Uganda, as we do not have any offering like this. It's mainly saving products that are denominated in Ugandan shillings. And as we know, I would say recent history, the dollar has relatively held a higher value to the Ugandan shilling over, say, if the last 5-year period. So that's Kanzu Code. And we have another grantee called Marcom. Marcom is a software company, actually a fintech that is building out an ecosystem of financial services. They are building an exchange, which will also have a liquidity rail that essentially provides the Celo dollar to third-party applications that can actually be able to leverage that liquidity from their platform to run their applications that would actually need the Celo dollar. So what Marcom is doing, they're building an exchange that will essentially have Celo assets listed on there, the Celo dollar and Celo, the native asset. And this will be in addition to some of the other assets like Bitcoin and Ethereum, but it will essentially help us with liquidity when it comes to the space of Uganda. Then we have Crypto Savannah. Crypto Savannah is actually one of the first grantees. They got their grant from Wave 2 of this initiative, and they are building a KYC solution for SIM card registration on the Celo blockchain. So it's KYC and digital identity is something that is a problem all across Africa. And the team at Crypto Savannah are trying to tackle this with grace by building the system on the Celo network. So that's what I can talk about for the case of Uganda for now. But then you mentioned something to do with Dunia Pay, and Dunia Pay is something that is really interesting because Dunia Pay has been able to take the stable asset ecosystem on the Celo network to the next level. Dunia Pay has launched a community stable value asset, which tracks the West African franc. It's the Celo West African franc that is native to the Dunia Pay digital wallet. So essentially, they are going to help individuals within the 14 countries in West Africa that do use the West African franc to hold the digital equivalent of that fiat currency that is pegged 1-to-1 to the franc, and they'll be able to earn an annual interest of up to 8% in wallet. This is over twice as much as they would actually get from conventional traditional banks within their respective nations. So it's a very fast for the African space, and we're very excited to see Dunia Pay bring this to fruition and grow the family of stable value currencies that are currently on Celo.
That's very interesting and cutting edge. So would you say the outlook on the adoption of blockchain technology and cryptocurrencies is more fast-growing and explosive? What's your broad view on the adoption and application of blockchain technology in Africa generally? As Umar sitting in Uganda, what would you say is the outlook or the trends?
Thank you for that, Patrick. And it's a very interesting question because taking it from somebody sitting in Kampala here, the broad perspective of blockchain is I would say a steady growth because there are various initiatives that coming to fruition across the continent. If you look at East Africa, if you look at West, if you look at the North and South. But then generally speaking, in relation to what we see on the global scale, it's relatively at a much slower pace than what we see, say, in Europe or North America. This is mostly brought down due to I would say, the fewer number of blockchain-based developers, as blockchain developers are not that common to come across within the context of Africa. We have a very robust ecosystem of developers, but they are mainly working on the Web 2.0 conventional world. So not very many of them are trying to make the leap into the Web 3.0, where blockchain is a native technology. And this is what explains the disparity in growth. Nonetheless, we have a vibrant ecosystem across the continent that is getting more curious in as far as what blockchain technology can do for them, and they trying to make the best out of this. This is tied into various initiatives that, say, Celo is working on in as far as growing the awareness, growing the capabilities of developers to be able to build on blockchain. We have run a couple of hackathons. Most recently, we had one with the UNODC for East Africa. And with this, we're targeting to get developers from within the East African region to build solutions that do tackle corruption. So this is something that was very encouraging, as it's a step outside of the normal association of blockchain, which would be cryptocurrency. As we know, money is the first application on blockchain. But now we had this brilliant mind, these young developers, because it was a youth hackathon. They're trying to target youthful devs. And we had various teams that came together from across the East African region, and even some from West Africa, because it wasn't really limited, even if the focus was mainly on East Africa. And they were all bringing their minds together to build solutions because we had two tracks on this. We had the Celo track, where they were building solutions on Celo, and also one on IBM's Hyperledger. It's noteworthy to say that the winning solution came on the Celo platform, and the team came from Uganda. And this was a collection of 4 developers who had simply come together just for the hackathon. They didn't have any prior interaction, and they were able to coordinate, use some of their Web 2.0 knowledge to bring that onto the Web 3.0 space, because there was some mentorship that was given. And we were able to see that there was a fully functional solution. It's actually called Watchdog. It's called WatchGuard, and it's supposed to. It's a system that kind of incentivizes people to whistleblow against any kind of graft or corrupt tendencies, and the whistleblowers have their identity protected, as nobody gets to know that it was a person A who blew the whistle here, and in return they also have the provision to tip them in cryptocurrency. So it's then a full end-to-end solution to corruption that we seek to develop on. And it's just one of the various applications that we do see coming out of Africa when it comes to the blockchain space. So looking at it with an overview, holistic view, is that Africa is still in the infancy of adopting this tech, but we do see real committed individuals, developers actively trying to work out on this. So you'll find these individuals are in more of the traditional hubs in Africa, say Nigeria, say Kenya and South Africa. But we do see some of the spillover effects going to countries like Uganda, Ghana, and various entities within North Africa. So, yeah.
Thanks for that. Yeah, I've studied your white paper, and I've seen that cryptocurrencies are a big or a significant pillar of the Celo project. Would you agree that one of the biggest barriers to the adoption of cryptocurrencies in general, or blockchain technology in general, but cryptocurrencies specifically, has been the volatility in the market for cryptocurrencies? And this perhaps has affected the adoption of, maybe even affected your work at the Celo Foundation. How would you practically propose on behalf of the organization that this stability can be achieved in the market so that perhaps people will be more interested in crypto?
Thank you for that question, Patrick. And it's quite spot on, because volatility is the underlying issue that is holding back crypto generally for mass adoption. Well, Celo as a platform is built on the foundation of stability as opposed to volatility. So if I could take a deeper dive into what Celo is, initially, Celo is a blockchain platform that has a reserve of digitally secure, cryptographically secured assets that back a host of stable value currencies on the same platform. So there is a reserve, or the reserve is actually used to back the outstanding stable digital assets. The stable value digital assets, the very first of which is the Celo dollar, which went live last year, and it holds a soft peg to the United States dollar at a rate of 1-to-1, and has held its peg beautifully over the course of the year. We haven't seen much volatility there, in that it has always been 1-to-1. And as of this year, we're able to launch the Celo Euro, which is the second reserve-backed asset sitting on the Celo network that is pegged 1-to-1 to the value of the euro. It's also holding its peg exceptionally well. So unlike traditional currencies or assets that are not kind of pegged or backed by a reserve, the Celo native digital stable value currencies like the Celo dollar and the Celo euro backed and held at a peg of 1-to-1 to their respective assets. So when we're talking about volatility, if you look at digital assets like Bitcoin is exceptionally volatile, as you can see swings of 5 to 10% within a single trading day. When it comes to the Celo platform, we do have the stable value assets, Celo dollars and Celo euro, which are backed by this reserve. Now, in the reserve, you do have the native asset, which is used for network governance, called Celo, and you have Bitcoin, you have some Ethereum in there, and you have some DAI. So it's an over-collateralized reserve that currently stands at a ratio of 1-to-7 in regards to the outstanding stable value assets. So meaning for each Celo dollar that is outstanding or in circulation, there are 7 assets that are backing it within this reserve. So there is a full peer-reviewed stability analysis paper that was published for the Celo protocol, and liberates various economic models that have forecasted all scenarios that could affect this 1-to-1 peg that span a period of 30 years out. And it's been quite accurate as a stability mechanism. So the practical bit is that there's something that underpins the technology of the Celo network. Stability mechanism that is deliberately deployed, maintain this peg, so that we don't leave it to the forces of the market. Initially, it had a very long name. It was called the Constant Product Decentralized 1-to-1 Mechanism, called CP-DOTO in short. But as of today, it's more refined. We call it Mento, which comes from Esperanto, just like Celo, and Mento means mint. So like a bank that mints coins. That's what we are leveraging. So just a practical example here is that you can look at 2 cycles of economic activity, one expansionary and one contractionary. Under an expansionary cycle, think of a scenario whereby the value or the demand for the Celo dollar as the very first asset. Let me use the Celo dollar because now we have 2. So the demand for the Celo dollar is high, and the demand has expanded, but the supply is relatively low. The price of the Celo dollar, so you may find that one Celo dollar is no longer equal to $1, it's equal to maybe $1.01. So in such a scenario, when you have an expansionary cycle, what happens is, what needs to happen is we need to have more Celo dollars in circulation. So somebody who wants to take advantage of this arbitrage opportunity would buy exactly $1 of Celo, which is the native asset, and they will take this $1 worth of Celo and exchange it with the Mento mechanism that I spoke of. Now, Mento can easily be found within one of the wallets that we have. It's called Valora. Valora is actually the de facto wallet that you would use to hold Celo assets. It's very user-friendly, can hold Celo, the native asset, and can easily be downloaded from the Play Store or the App Store. So Valora is the de facto wallet that we would use to interact with the Celo assets. Like I was saying, under an expansionary cycle, the value of the Celo dollar has broken to the upside, and one Celo dollar is not exactly again. It's pegged to $1.01. An individual could take opportunity to arbitrage this by going to the open market. They buy exactly $1 worth of, and they send that to the Valora wallet. They sell that for exactly $1 worth of, for exactly one Celo dollar within this, and they will get that $1 and sell it to the market and pocket the difference. So they're essentially getting dollars cheaply, selling them at that profit, and this would incentivize them to bring new dollars into circulation, and the peg would be restored. So on the other side, think of a contractionary kind of economic cycle when the demand for Celo dollars drops, and there are very many in circulation. Meaning now, instead of one Celo dollar being equal to $1, it's equal to, say, 98 cents or 99 cents. So in this scenario, you need to take out excess liquidity, like the central banks would say, mopping up excess liquidity. So individuals who want to take opportunity of this would be able to buy, they would be able to buy $1, one Celo dollar, which is cheaper now because it would be 98 cents. And they would sell that for $1 worth of Celo within Valora as well. And they can be able to get that Celo out and sell it on the open market, and they can pocket the difference. So essentially, they're buying dollars cheaply and selling them back on the market, and selling back Celo on the market for the spread there. So essentially, they're taking out excess liquidity until that peg is restored. So this decentralized one-to-one mechanism, which is called Mento right now, has been efficient in holding the peg, and we have not seen any deviation from the soft peg of one-to-one, and has actually held out perfectly. It's a long explanation, but that's what we're very passionate about.
That's very clever. Thanks for that. So besides or outside of the volatility, what other challenges do you face in the work that you're currently doing on a day-to-day? Perhaps our stakeholders listening to this episode can help you tackle these issues. Would you like to mention a few of them, if any?
Yeah, thanks, Patrick. And this is a very interesting aspect of blockchain in general, and you'll find that it's kind of the same problems that we have in East Africa, West Africa, South Africa, or the North, all across the continent. To just talk about them in an overview, it would be issues to do with regulation. We do need kind of robust regulation that is specifically targeting or specifically drafted to deal with decentralized activities, kind of like what we're doing, blockchains and cryptocurrencies, because the existing laws currently, even if they're talking about fintechs and digital currencies, do not really hit the nail on the head when it comes to cryptographically secured assets. So I would love to see some more regulation that is both user-friendly and more accurate in as far as regulating digital assets goes. That would be very helpful. So if there's anybody there that is a regulator, it would be awesome to work together and see that we can work out any kinks or any issues that would be a barrier to mass adoption. Then the second one would be things to do with infrastructure and policy, because for the case of decentralized technologies like blockchain, these are internet-based services for the most part. And we have had some extensions that have helped us lower barriers to entry using technology such as USSD, which is SMSs for feature phones that do not have internet to whether access to the internet. So in terms of this pain point, we would love to see more policies that are put in place that kind of lower the barrier to have these technologies reach the grassroots. Because if the price of internet is high, as for the case of Uganda, whereby you have the average cost of 1 GB is around $1.40 to $1.90, and we know that the poverty line is at $1.90, and we have around, say, 41 to 42 of the population that lives below the poverty line. These individuals are essentially cut out from this ecosystem. So if we do not have policies in place that can enable services like internet to be cheaply provided and given to the citizenry, it's an uphill task, and we find that very many individuals get disenfranchised from using these technologies. It would be a very good step in the right direction if we would get infrastructure-based policies that lower the barriers to entry when it comes to USSD codes and services, because that's also something that is a paradox, because the cost of renting a USSD short code is pretty much prohibitive for the average startup. So you find that these individuals do not get the support that they need to innovate and bring forward some of their innovations to the market because of some of these barriers there. So if we're able to get something that in the way of policy that is conducive for lowering barriers to entry, that would be a very big win for us generally as an industry. Then there is the issue of education. Education covers around 3 aspects, in as far as education about blockchain technology in general, education to the developer base so that they can be the builders of this infrastructure, and also education to deal with scams. Because what we see on the continent of Africa is that scams everywhere in the blockchain space, and individuals have been there hand-earned money over the years, and there is like currently no redress for this. So we need to have aligned partners who can help us in the scope of education initiatives so that individuals understand what blockchain technology is all about and how the financial services do work, pretty much like the way it is for mobile money, because right now mobile money has been around for around, say, 10, 13 years, pretty much the same time as the blockchain space, because Bitcoin was also launched in around 2009. So we're looking at the same timeline. But in terms of education and getting more awareness around the technology, blockchain technology is lagging behind, and there's that gap there. So when it comes to developers also, we need to have more education programs at universities and various FinTech hubs, like co-working spaces that can be able to empower current developers to work in the blockchain space, because there are very many tools they can leverage to get to the next level of their careers. So in a nutshell, regulation, policies that are conducive for lowering barriers to entry, and education initiatives that can help us grow the awareness of the technology across the continent.
Thanks a lot. So I'm aware that the Celo community has developed quite a bit and now comprises thousands of developers and backers like Jack Dorsey, Reid Hoffman. You've got partners like Coinbase. Which notable partners have you signed up in Africa so far? And how does one join this movement if they're interested?
Thanks for that question, Patrick. Actually, the question around Celo and backers is a very interesting one, because the likes of the names that you mentioned, like Jack Dorsey, Coinbase, and Reid Hoffman, these are early stage believers in the protocol who were able to provide some form of funding to the Celo Foundation, and they laid the groundwork. But I would when the Celo protocol was coming into existence, there was an initial auction of the native asset. Like I said, Celo has a 2-asset system. You have Celo, the native asset, which is used for network governance, and it is what individuals do stake when they are participating in network governance and voting on proposals. Then you have a host of stable value currencies that sit on top of the blockchain and are used for various services. as everyday currencies, per se. So initially, when the Celo network was actually going live, there was an auction that was open to anyone in the world to be able to participate and get a host of tokens that you could be able to stake and have your say on the development of the Celo network. This was around the time that I joined, around May 2020, and we were carrying out awareness, trying to call on our individual communities to take part in this. And various people took part, were able to provide funds for the auction, and they were able to actually get these tokens. So as of today, those are also some of our early, I would say, backers, because their names do not actually sound as robust as some of the names that you mentioned, but it's just testament to show you that the Celo platform is for everybody, and it's a system that is supposed to be open and inclusive. So you had investors, okay, not investors, you have purchasers, people who come through and purchase the Celo asset, because back then, before it was changed, it was called Celo Gold. So they're buying Celo Gold. Then after some time, this name was changed from Celo Gold to Celo, just to avoid the confusion with pure physical gold. So you would find that the initiatives were already built with the end user in mind, and we have this ongoing open ecosystem that is bringing everybody in. So Celo is open source. Anybody who wants to be a part of the community can easily take up this. Then secondly, when it comes to partners, being an ecosystem lead for Uganda, I have a view of the African partners that we've been able to work with. And since my time joining here, we've gotten some traction with various entities. For the case of Uganda, I spoke about Kanzu Code. I spoke about Crypto Savannah. We do have other partners like Spay Taxi, which is a ride transportation company here in Kampala that does airport transfers, and also Bit2Big, which is an exchange and OTC service. So for the case of Kenya, we have Pezesha, which is a very vibrant lending fintech that actually was featured on this very podcast. Hilda is a very amazing founder, and they're also currently working on a pilot that is distributing 100,000 Celo dollars within various communities in Kenya to show the use case of lending and borrowing on the Celo platform. So we also have Jaza Energy, which is based out of Tanzania, and they are working on renewable solar solutions. They have these solar hubs that are placed all over Tanzania, and communities can be able to go and buy a solar battery pack that is recharged and swapped out the following day at just a couple of cents in Tanzanian shillings. And this is one of the ways that we are trying to combat the climate crisis, and we're very excited to have them on board as alliance partners. There was the United Africa Blockchain Association based out of South Africa, which is on a mission to build the capacity of blockchain on the continent by providing free education lessons. And they're doing something interesting, which I'll hopefully speak about later on. We also have, for the case of West Africa, I already spoke about Dunia Pay, which is an all-inclusive digital banking solution application that you can hold in the palm of your hand, and currently issues the Celo West African franc. We also have BitMama, based out of Nigeria, and they also do provide a digital wallet solution that provides access to a various host of cryptocurrencies, such as Celo and the Celo dollar. And this is to mention but a few. So as we can see, it's a continent-wide approach that anybody who is mission-aligned and believes that we can actually build a financial system that creates the conditions for prosperity for everyone is encouraged to reach out, and we can be able to work with them to see where they will best fit and add value.
That's very cool. So for the developers specifically, what are some of the tools available for them to build DeFi or decentralized apps on the Celo platform?
Thank you for that, Patrick. When it comes to developers, we look at developers as the fundamental building blocks of the ecosystem. And within the Celo platform, we do have a robust library of documentations that are all stored under the URL of docs.celo.org. That's docs, like Google Docs.celo.org. Under this particular library of documentations, we do have it will be essentially looked at as an A to Z guide of how you can start from 0 to 100 on the Celo platform within the shortest time possible, depending on your knowledge background. So there is something in there for the beginners and also something there for the developers. Now, essentially for the developers, there's a specific software development kit that is tied to a DApp kit, and DApp meaning a decentralized application, like you mentioned earlier. And this essentially can enable any developer who has the soft skills of development, or who has the skills that can actually build something, to interact with the Celo platform and build React Native applications that can be deployed on the live network. So the DApp kit has been deployed and is live right now. It's a very useful resource that any developer out there who wants to tinker with the workings of the Celo platform can be able to play with. This is all housed under the docs.celo.org, and you can actually understand, interact with it, there's also a contract kit in there that can enable you deploy smart contracts on the Celo platform without having to go through a third party, and everything is well documented in there. Then also, in as far as developers go, Celo is built as an Ethereum virtual machine compatible production network. So if you are currently developing on Ethereum, you can be able to develop on Celo as well, and you can be able to bring your knowledge from the Ethereum ecosystem onto the Celo ecosystem. This was further enhanced earlier this year when the network had a hard fork that we had codenamed Donut. You'll find that much of the technical milestones in Celo are named after food. We have a test network that is called Alfajores, and Alfajores is a cookie out of Argentina, which was inspired by one of the initial backers of the platform. Then we have a second test network called Baklava, and baklava is a pastry out of the Mediterranean. And yeah, you'll actually find that there's a lot of food within this particular ecosystem. So the Donut hard fork was able to, essentially any hard fork is an upgrade to the network that is backwards incompatible. So it brings new functionality to the network that was not there before. So with this hard fork, we're able to add functionality that brings more of Ethereum's tooling, Ethereum being one of the biggest blockchains, to the Celo platform. So anybody who can build something on Ethereum would feel very at home building on Celo, as the tooling is the same. Yeah, and to kind of tie this all into a neat bow and tie, we currently have the Celo Batch 4, which is, I could say, it's an 8-week incubator program that is specifically designed for developers and entrepreneurs in the tech space. Applications are currently open, and this is the fourth batch of this program. The applications are open from now up to until August 24th, and it's also backed by organizations such as Andreessen Horowitz, Polychain Capital, Electric Capital, and of course Celo. So the accelerator program will run from September 23rd to November 19th. And this is something that has actually helped us build traction in as far as developers go and entrepreneurs go, because we have seen various teams come through this program and they've actually been successful deploying solutions on Celo. An example is Paychant in Nigeria, who were the winners from last round, and they do have a digital payment processing service that can be able to process digital payments. They are winners from this Celo batch. Whether Celo Camp batch number 3. Now batch number 4 starts. And just to maybe talk about the benefits of this particular initiative, you can be in position to be fast-tracked to get investment opportunities, which have raised around $15 million since 2020 for winners. There are prizes that totaling up to $30,000 Celo dollars per batch. Then you can also connect with high-tier influencers from various organizations like Andreessen Horowitz, T-Systems, Electric Capital, Polychain Capital, Galaxy Digital. Then it's also virtual, so you can actually apply from everywhere, you apply from anywhere in the world. And we do encourage anybody who would feel like getting involved in this to head over to Celo. It's celocamp.com. That is celocamp.com. And applications active right now up to the 24th.
That sounds very exciting. So now the debate in finance is shifting from just merely inclusion, and we're talking now about the value of finance. What's the point of me joining the global financial ecosystem? Where's the value in that? And I wanted to ask you a more open-ended question, like what other opportunities exist for fintechs like ours to enhance the long-term social development or to bring more value to our African communities in general? In your opinion, do you see any other gaps that we can fill that other fintech players or other partners of the Celo network can take advantage of?
Thank you, Patrick, for that question. When it comes to changing trends in finance, yes, that is something that is happening right now, and we can still see gaps within the broader ecosystems of finance global. To put it plainly, financial inclusion is not an end in itself, but rather kind of a big piece in this puzzle. You also need to think about issues to do with financial health. Financial health, specifically looking at what are the quality of the services that are being provided and the general understanding of these individuals being financially included. So you can't just give somebody the tools and you do not show them how they could be able to leverage these tools to better themselves. So it's one piece of a bigger puzzle. So financial health is also very key in this. So when it comes to this, seeing opportunities in this, I would like to talk about a second initiative that we currently have running with the United Africa Blockchain Association, which is an entity that is working on having blockchain adoption widespread within the continent by providing free education. They have recently launched a collaboration with the Celo Community Fund. The Celo Community Fund is a fund that was established by the Celo protocol that gets a portion of the network rewards every day. The current portion is around 25%, and the fund is deployed to fund causes that do affect the Celo ecosystem. So one deployment of this fund is what I'm talking about right now. The UABA, United Africa Blockchain Association, is having a workshop that is dubbed Blockchain as a Business. It's trying to the aim of the workshop is to educate stakeholders and curious individuals how they can be able to leverage blockchain as a business. What opportunities do lie within there, just outside of having financial inclusion. So you can be able to understand how you can deploy a smart contract, how you can interact with decentralized exchanges such as Uberswap, which is essentially not a physical exchange, but simply lives on the blockchain. How you can play in the financial money markets with Mola Market, which provides decentralized finance on the Celo platform. And it's a very robust system. So this particular intake is starting from the 18th of August. There'll be two sessions, 18th August to 19th August, and 25th August to 26th August. And individuals who would like to understand how they can deploy blockchain as a business are highly encouraged to sign up at UABA, that is uaba.io, and you can be able to get information on how you can structure and attend these discussions. Then talking about sustainability, again, this is an open-ended broad question because we can look at sustainability as something that is concerned about the survival of an entity. And in this case, we cannot talk about sustainability without talking about the climate crisis. As all fintechs, as all entities, all startups need to be aware that we have one planet and the planet is heating up along with having drastic changes in climate. So there are exists a huge gap in as far as understanding the climate crisis is concerned and building tools and mechanisms to ensure that we can be able to avert this for our generation and future generations. For the case of this platform, Celo is actually a net carbon negative blockchain. And this means that this Celo offsets its carbon emissions over and above what it actually does, meaning we actually offset more than we emit. So we're carbon negative. We're not only carbon neutral, we're carbon negative. And this would actually also tie into the fact that running services on Celo is actually good for the environment. So I would like to encourage anybody listening to this podcast today to think about the climate that we have, because much as we want to innovate on money, we want to build the next killer financial service, the next killer financial app, we have one planet, and we cannot do that as easily on Mars, because then would simply have to build the rails starting from the ground up. So if we can be able to work with solutions that are sustainable and do take the environment into consideration, I do believe that we can avert this crisis over time and be able to see a healthier, more sustainable planet that can enable all of us thrive.
That's very exciting. Thanks for that. Well, as we summarize our very exciting conversation, would you like to just bring it all home in a few seconds, just in summary? Any parting shots, any wise words to our audience out there?
Thank you, Patrick. Yeah, the Celo ecosystem is a very broad, fast-growing ecosystem, as it's built for everybody. So we have a mission to build a financial system that creates the conditions for prosperity for everyone. And with this mission, we need everyone's buy-in. So without the community's buy-in, we cannot stand any chance of success. So we need people who are mission aligned. And if you are an individual who would like to get involved, it's an open system. It's a very open network. We have alliance partners. We have an ambassador program. We have hackathons that do happen every now and then that are geared towards developers, and various initiatives with members from the Celo Alliance for Prosperity. We are very interested in growing our community, and we actively seeking mission-aligned organizations and individuals who can contribute their unique talents to the growth of Celo. So if you want to reach out, you can start from the Celo website, which is celo.org. That is Celo, that is celo.org. And on there, you'll find a host of resources, from white papers to news and events, announcements, mechanisms, funding rounds, because we do have around 3 ecosystem funds that can be able to provide funding for people or entities that are trying to build something that could be sustainable for the Celo ecosystem. And we would be very interested in having your say. Then also, if you wanted to experience the power of the Celo network firsthand, because it's a mobile-first platform, I encourage you to consider downloading the Valora app, and this can be gotten from the Google Play Store or the App Store. It's called Valora. That is VALORA, and you'll find that you can be able to send and receive funds of value to any phone number anywhere on the planet, as easy as sending a text. Otherwise, we do encourage you to reach out, and we look forward to building this system together.
There you have it. The Celo project, whose impact is broad and far-reaching, and they're preaching the gospel of community, openness, inclusion, and I'd encourage our audience to reach out using the platforms they've mentioned. Umar, how can they reach you personally?
I'm on social media. I'm active on Twitter. My handle is Umar_Sebyala. That is UMAR_SEBYALA. That's Twitter. And you can shoot me an email at umar.sebyala@cLabs.co.
Yeah, we're so happy. We're so happy that you joined the call and that you've joined our show. And we look forward to following your project and hearing from you again, hopefully, in the near future. So thanks to our audience for listening. to this really electric episode of the Voice of FinTech Africa series. And we're looking forward to our next one. Thanks a lot.
Thank you for listening to Voice of FinTech podcast. If you haven't already, check out also voiceoffintech.com, where you will find all the episodes and additional resources related to the podcast. You can also subscribe to Voice of FinTech on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google, or any other podcast app that you like. If you have any suggestions on the topics or guests, or how to make this podcast better for you, please email us at info@voiceoffintech.com. Happy to hear from you. Thank you.